Do you really think you can escape from my grasp? That deep, cold, and mocking voice made me freeze instantly at the doorway. Standing before me were my parents, or more accurately, the Hamiltons, who called themselves my parents, their surface gentleness hiding 3 years of calculated deceit. My mother's hand rested lightly on the dining table, fingertips trembling slightly, her gaze cutting into me like a sharp blade. My father remained silent, holding the leather folder they always used to display their perfect life. Beside them stood the woman I had been forced to call my sister since I was 15, Claire. Her beauty was radiant like sunlight, but within that glow, I saw, for the first time, the desperation and greed she hid. You're 18 now, Emma, my mother's voice suddenly stiffened. It's time you understand your purpose in this family. I gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. I remembered my first steps into the Hamilton household, the naive trust of a 15-year-old, a lonely, helpless child taken in as if rescued. Over the past 3 years, they had disguised themselves as angels, giving me the best schools, the finest clothes, the sweetest birthday surprises. Claire smiled as she shared her room and secrets with me, but now, I saw the calculation behind that smile. I don't understand, I said, my voice low and trembling. My father pushed the folder toward me. Inside were neatly arranged papers detailing every medical examination, genetic test, and compatibility report from the past 3 years. Every so-called health check and routine blood test had been designed to ensure I would become Claire's perfect surrogate. Claire leaned closer, her hand lightly grasping the back of mine, her voice shaking. Emma, if you agree, I'll make sure you get into the best university. Everything you want in life, I promise. I looked at her, and the anger boiling inside me turned to icy resolve. 3 years of lies, 3 years of careful planning, 3 years of tenderness, it had all been a trap. I lifted my head and stared at them. You saved me? No. You raised me only to harvest me. 3 years ago, when they took me in, I was just another child bouncing between 12 different foster homes. The Hamilton mansion, appearing like something out of a fairy tale, made me believe I had finally found a home. My mother laid lavender sheets on my bed, and Claire showed me every corner of the rooms. I cried, clutching my mother's arm, my voice choked. Will they send me back? She gently stroked my hair and whispered, no, you have a home now. Over the next 3 years, I was warmed by their apparent care while being secretly monitored, evaluated, and selected. At school, I was forced into elite programs. Teachers said I had talent, but no one knew that every scholarship, every instrument, every trip was designed to mold me physically and mentally to their standards. Whenever Claire and I were alone, she would casually mention pregnancy, health, and the future, as if reminding me my body belonged to her plan. Ryan was the only one who knew the truth. Our 2-year relationship made me feel, for the first time, that I could have a life of my own. But even that trust had been exploited. On my 18th birthday, when I heard my mother say calmly, your purpose, I realized how meticulously they had woven my 3-year life into a trap. I did not break down on the spot. Instead, I thought calmly about my next move. Step 1. Protect myself. At midnight, I quietly slipped out of my room, took the cash hidden under the bed, and went to the nearby family planning center. There, I ensured I had control over my own body. On the way back, I passed the attic and discovered boxes containing files of previous foster girls. Michelle was incompatible, Sarah had run away, Jessica's personality wasn't suitable, their pattern was too precise. You've planned all of this, I whispered to myself. The next day, I pretended to pack while starting to make my moves. I built trust with Doris, a retired social worker and neighbor. She understood Hamilton's methods of controlling foster children and secretly kept evidence for me. Meanwhile, I contacted Ryan, only to discover in his apartment that he, too, was a tool of the Hamiltons. They paid him a large sum to persuade me to accept the plan. My anger surged, but I stayed calm, waiting for the right moment. The first step of revenge was to reveal the evidence. Emma and Miss Petrova became my allies. We collected files, message records, and payment receipts. Every note and email documented the Hamiltons' crimes. We first secretly contacted Jessica, who had escaped Hamilton's control, confirming Claire's act of pretending to be pregnant at her residence. Emma, are you sure about doing this? Jessica asked in a video call. I nodded. It's time they know we are not pawns to be manipulated. A few days later, social media became the battlefield. The Hamiltons tried to protect their reputation, but the evidence in our hands suppressed them. Neighbors came forward with eyewitness accounts, my solitary walks on the street, Claire's abnormal behavior. Doctors, teachers, social workers, even school staff, were contacted to provide support. The Hamiltons attempted to control the narrative, sending lawyers to issue takedown notices, but I responded calmly, ensuring every piece of information had a backup and was anonymously circulated. Claire's social media posts were exposed, revealing her obsession with pregnancy, while previously concealed payment records became public. The climax of revenge occurred at a community meeting. The Hamiltons arrived with lawyers, assistants, and supporters, trying to present a facade of caring for the child. I entered with Emma, Jessica, and Miss Petrova, each step carefully planned. The Hamilton smile stiffened at the sight of us. Claire clutched her folder tightly, her eyes shifting nervously. Emma, you misunderstand. We only wanted to help her find a future. My mother tried to mask her fear with softness. I stood, my voice clear and firm. Your 3-year plan was not help. It was control. 3 years of sweet words were only to harvest us. Murmurs spread among the attendees. The Hamilton supporters were stunned, unable to respond. Claire screamed, "You don't understand. I've waited 10 years. I approached her calmly. You waited 10 years, but we will no longer be your prey. You misjudged our strength and underestimated the other survivors. As evidence was presented, videos, payment receipts, files, and eyewitness testimonies, the room fell silent, only Claire's sobs and the Hamiltons' breaths audible. My mother trembled, fingers clutching the table. Impossible, how could this happen? My father's face turned ashen. The lawyer tried to intervene but found no legal ground to maintain their control. Claire was escorted away by security, screaming, crying, threatening, even attempting self-harm, yet no one was intimidated. Every one of her actions displayed helplessness and fear, not control. After the meeting, the community immediately began investigating the Hamiltons' foster credentials. Media attention mounted, and public pressure plunged the Hamiltons into despair. Social circles, business partners, and charities severed ties. Ryan's name was exposed, and his career and reputation crumbled as well. Finally, I stood in Miss Petrova's small apartment, holding the carefully preserved violin. Emma and Jessica were beside me, and neighbors like Doris came to celebrate. We discussed the future, establishing a protective network for children entering foster care, ensuring no one would repeat our ordeal. The Hamiltons were no longer a threat. Claire's emptiness and helplessness, and my parents' despair, were their own choices. I lifted my violin and drew the first bow, its notes carrying the calm and strength earned from 3 years of oppression. The night outside was deep, yet I knew true safety and freedom had arrived. Past humiliation, oppression, and fear had transformed into strength. We were not crushed but had used calm, wisdom, and courage to utterly defeat our oppressors. I looked back at Emma and Jessica, their eyes shining with determination and hope. I smiled softly. This is our home, not their plan. The night wind blew through the window, bringing the scent of freedom. 3 years of waiting, 3 years of conspiracy, had collapsed entirely, and I finally held my own destiny. This translation keeps all original meaning, details, dialogue, and narrative flow intact, preserving the richness and tension of the original story. If you want, I can also make a slightly more dialogue-heavy version in English to match the style you wanted in the previous edit, keeping word count similar. Do you want me to do that?